Cha. And turns them into sound.
Shall we play a game?
Oh.
I think getting
horrible buzzing noises on everything. And nearly catching yourself on fire, which you, as a guy who does what you do, would frown upon.
Very definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chuck Joyner is here with us, everybody. Chuck Joyner of MacVoices. You can find MacVoices. You said yesterday that you can find you online just about everywhere at Chuck Joyner, but there is also an at MacVoices on Twitter, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay.
There is. Split personality.
There you go. Well, it's fine. I wish I had done that because I did macOS Ken as my Twitter thing, and that's like my one Twitter thing. That's it. And people sometimes get mad. They're like, "Hey, I listen to macOS Ken for this, not for this other thing." I'm like, "Well, this is Twitter, so I don't know. I don't know what you're listening to right now, but it's just me, or it ain't me, depending on which one I'm talking about at that moment." I want to talk to you about something that you and I have talked about off and on for years. I remember when I think it was still a rumor. I don't think we knew for certain that Apple had purchased Beats, but it was a rumor that Apple had purchased Beats. And we didn't understand exactly why they were purchasing Beats. I said it didn't seem like the worst idea in the world because Beats was producing over $1 billion a year. Whatever Apple planned to do, they would make the money back in 3 to 4 years as long as they didn't screw it up. We knew there was a possibility they were going to go into streaming music. I want to say it was even on that call, which was over 5 years ago, that there was some talk of Apple maybe trying to get into producing some other kind of content of its own. And I was like, well, again, they've got billions of dollars. So if they want to try that, why not? I don't care. 5 years later, we've got News Plus, we've got TV Plus, we've got Apple Music, which of course came out of the Beats music thing. And then we've got all the bundles that Apple is introducing as well. Talk to me about the last 5 years. How do you feel about how their services have gone? Was it almost inevitable? Is there one that you still don't understand why they're doing it? Is there one that they're completely screwing up? Is there one that's impressed you more than you ever thought they would? Talk to me just sort of about the services thing writ large.
Okay, so let's do the roll call. News
Okay.
Plus.
Yep.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I don't use it, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
No. It just. But I'm also not the kind of guy any longer that sits down and reads a newspaper or goes to CNN or ABC or NBC or the BBC or whatever your personal preferred news service is. Mm-hmm. I sort of pick up news catch can, and go looking for something if I really want to know something. So yeah, it's fine. I mean, there's certainly something to be said for controlling the narrative, and so that's kind of the way. If I had to estimate what Apple's trying, or guesstimate, I should say, what Apple's trying to do there, maybe they're just trying to control it or have it as one more thing in their pocket. TV Plus is really interesting. I think. So let's skip to music for a second. We'll come back to TV Plus.
Okay.
So music it absolutely has impressed me, and it's made absolute sense that they would produce the HomePod and the HomePod Pro. Excuse me, the HomePod Mini. Sorry,
right.
There is no HomePod Pro. Slip of the tongue. But those are the perfect devices to consume that on. And so, I would have absolutely expected them to make a speaker. And the music service has done great, mainly because I think Apple, without the music industry realizing it, got them around the throat and had control of it. TV Plus, I don't think the TV and movies industry was going to let that happen to them. So Apple said, okay, we'll just become one of you and start playing in your arena. And they haven't put out the volume of content, but they seem to have put out a pretty decent quality of content so far. And so I don't think it's a threat to Netflix, but I think it and they did something that I've been screaming at, that we talked a little bit sort of earlier in the week. They priced it so that it's almost a throwaway. Once they get you in, it's not like if you're going through your bills and trying to cut expenses, that's one of the ones you're going to cut unless you just absolutely are not watching it at all, because it's not that big a deal.
Especially now if you look at the bundles as well, because like I'm doing a bit of trading back and forth, like with the HBO announcement last week, last week, that they're going to be doing their movies day of on HBO Max. Okay, well, HBO Max, I believe, is $15 a month, and I am looking, and it's not that I can't afford to add another $15 a month. I'm just kind of resentful of the fact that I keep like, oh, okay, well, I'll just add that. Okay, well, I'll just add that. And suddenly I'm almost to the point of paying what I paid for cable. And not really. I'm not really that, nearly there. But it's kind of bothering me that I'm, paying so much. So I'm like going and swapping in back and forth, things like that. But then you look at the Apple stuff. Like I went with the Apple One Premier bundle because there were 3 things that I was paying for that took me to that $30 already. There was Apple Music. It might have been News Plus, and then the 2 terabytes of storage in iCloud, and that was already $30. And so then they say, okay, well, just pay it to us in this one lump thing, and you'll get those 3 things that you have. Plus, you'll get what was the one I was just talking about? Apple TV Plus. You get Apple Arcade, and suddenly they're not actually things that you can take out anymore, right? Because like I can't cancel Apple TV now unless I bust all those things back out to just being their own things. And then why wouldn't I keep them for, quote, free, end quote.
Yeah, but you know what? And we're all this way. We're all kind of schizophrenic. 1 minute, we don't want bundles. We just want to buy what we want. Mm-hmm. And then we're complaining about, well, it costs too much that way, but you're offering me this to save money over here as a bundle. And even though I really don't want, let's just say, Apple Arcade, right, it's still going to save me money. So I'll buy the bundle. So, they're giving it to us both ways, and we're still not happy about it.
Well, again, I'm okay with the Apple bundle, but only because it happened to work for me anyway. I mean, I don't know that it saves me money, but it doesn't cost me anything more to have this extra stuff, so I'm okay. Fitness Plus is another thing, too. Fitness Plus is the one that's supposed to be coming out by the end of the year. There's not much year left, of course, but it's supposed to be coming out by the end of the year. So, I mean, they're getting the $30 of recurring revenue. I'm getting, more stuff than I would have had otherwise. There was a point that there's a point that we keep dancing around. I keep kind of missing it, and I can't. I've lost my train of thought on that one. So if you have anything to throw in there, I feel fairly certain I'll remember it halfway through what you're saying, and then maybe we'll come back to it.
All right, well, just interrupt me. I think the bundles are a great thing, both for consumers and for Apple, because on the Apple side, obviously, it's the recurring revenue, and it puts those services in front of me, and they are not costing me anymore. To your point, and I will probably make a decision to become a bundle subscriber once my free time period for Apple TV Plus is over, just because it makes sense. Now, that means I will get Apple Arcade, which I have less than zero interest in personally.
Really?
That means I'll get yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, just I'm not a gamer at all.
Okay.
So that's why it'll put Apple News back within my grasp, and maybe I will start to use it a little more. And it certainly doesn't cost Apple anything more to deliver Apple News to me or Arcade to me, but they get the revenue for it.
Yeah, especially if you don't use it. It really doesn't cost them anything if you don't use Apple Arcade. Then you're just paying for it, not taking up their bandwidth. Okay, right. I did remember halfway through what I was going to say. You had said that Apple TV Plus does not necessarily have the amount of content, the volume of content. I was blown away last week by, I think it was on Friday, you had 4 shows hit. One of them was the Peanuts thing, which was produced 50 years ago, so it's kind of hard to count that. But they had 4 new shows hit on Friday, and then they announced 4 new shows last week as well. I mean, it's gotten to a point now that I can't really keep up with how much stuff Apple has to offer. And you're right, on any given Sunday, Netflix may introduce 100 shows, none of which you'll ever hear about because they're introducing 100 shows or 50 shows or even 10. If they're doing that all throughout the week, you honestly just can't keep up with the amount of stuff that they're doing. Apple's not there yet, but we may be just a couple of years from Apple being at that place where there's so much stuff on there that nobody says, oh, but they don't have as much as Netflix. Because while that might technically be true, they're going to, if they keep producing the way they're producing now, in a year or two, they're going to have more content than you're ever going to be able to watch, because they're not just adding one show at a time. They seem to be adding shows almost exponentially. The other thing I'll say really quickly as far as Apple Arcade, I think they need This is going to sound insulting to you, and I don't mean for it to, because it's insulting to me too. I think they need dumb games. I think they need dumber games than they have. There is a game that has absolutely captivated me for the past month called Upspell, which is pretty much just like a Scrabble tile game. They give you 7 letters. You make a word as quickly as you can. You get 2 minutes. You try to beat your own high score last time. And if I sit down to play that game for 3 minutes, I'm sitting down to play it for 20 minutes. And the graphics are nothing. And the story, it doesn't exist. It's just a casual game, but it's a casual game that I can't pull away from. Not one from Apple Arcade. As far as I know, they don't have any stupid little games like that. If they had stupid little games like that, I would be spending all of my time on Apple Arcade instead of this, $2.99 app that I bought from the App Store instead. Do you just have no time for any kind of games at all, or is it the big games that they have are not the games for you?
Both. I mean, the only game I play is one that you play with sticks on acres of land, and it has 18 holes in it. That's other than that, it's just not my thing. In college, I played some video games, but I just never got that bug. There are too many other things that I enjoy, or too many other things I guess I need to do or want to do that I just don't do that. My version of standing in line waiting at the grocery store is not to flip open a game and play a couple levels. It's to scroll my newsfeed. So that's just me. But you reminded me of a point that I wanted to make. This stuff doesn't have to be for everybody. Mm. That's kind of the beauty of it. If I have no interest in current events, I don't need to pay attention to news to still have the bundle have value for me. And so in my case, games has no interest to me, but the bundle still can potentially provide value. And I think that's an important point that is so easy to overlook, because people are trying to shoehorn everything that they want and then reject everything else. And it's like, just don't fire up Arcade if it doesn't float your boat.